Okay, the recording started right now. Hi, good morning, everyone, or good day, wherever you are. I'm Rick Zanotti, and welcome to eLearnChat, where talk is knowledge. And today we've got a special co-host. Dawn couldn't make it, but she was really nice to get us. There he is, Tom Spiglanen. Hey, Tom, how are you?
Good morning, everybody.
How's everything going?
Things are great. It's a little overcast here in not so sunny Southern California. It's a nice day.
That's good. Yeah, it is overcast over here. I'm a little north of you, but not by much, about 50 miles, 60 miles. So, Tom, how's it feel like to be on the other side now?
Well, I'm just in a little different window this time.
That's right. It's a slightly
figure
different
out
window.
what it is that all the magic that you and Dawn do.
Yep. Now, you did hook up the electrocution device, right? So if anything happens, we zap you, and that kind of gets you back on track.
That's right.
Yep. Dawn likes that one, actually. But anyway, hey, we've got a very well-known guest today. Do you know? Well, you know a little bit about our guest, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're asking me?
Yes.
Yeah, Joe Ganci. He just was awarded a guild master by the eLearning Guild.
Yeah, that was kind of
just a couple weeks ago. And I guess it was a big surprise to him.
That was a cool story.
There's only been two awards given. Clark Quinn.
There's a rabid dog somewhere over there.
Yes, unfortunately.
Anyway, we've got with us today Joe Ganci. And Joe, how are you today?
I am well. My dog is sound asleep. He's a Shih Tzu who's now 16 years old, and he sleeps about 22 hours a day. So
wow,
he's fine. He won't be bothering us. Plus, he never ever barks. So that's a good thing in a dog, I guess.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm in sunny Washington D.C. It's a little chilly still, but not too bad. It's in the 50s right now.
Well, that's not bad.
And yes, it's bright and sunny and has been all week.
Yeah, you're probably sunnier than we are. We're in the 50s, but no sun over here.
No, not a cloud in the sky here.
Now, Joe, I've been meaning to ask you. This is kind of an important question because I was looking at your new company name, and I was trying to figure out how did you come up with that name. That was a tough one.
Oh well, I have a history of company names. I used to, when I first wrote back in the 90s, I wrote my first authorware book, and I wrote 4 eventually. And then the product authorware was a very popular tool in the 90s and early 2000s. And I found out in Virginia, if you're going to sell your own book, you still have to set up a business. So my wife suggested, why don't you just call yourself Successful Multimedia? And I said, okay. And so I did. But then when I started hiring employees and such, I decided, well, I want to come up with a different name. So then I came up with the name Dazzle Technologies Corp. Now, Dazzle Technologies Corp abbreviates nicely to Dazzle Tech, but Successful Multimedia abbreviated to SuckMul, which just didn't really fly. So it was a much better name. But then when I decided that after 14 years it was time to be on my own again, I was thinking about something really innovative, something really, really cool that nobody would ever think, I was not imaginative. And so, yes, now I'm eLearningJoe.
I actually like the name. It's, you know what? It's you.
Well, thank you. I imagine one day of creating a logo wherein I'm coming into town on my horse into the Old West Village with a laptop under my arm. Hey, here comes eLearningJoe.
It's eLearningJoe.
Yeah.
That's good. And by the way, here's your website. It's www.eLearningJoe. You can't miss that one, .com.
Yes, soon to be updated because right now it's a skeleton.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Well, you've been in the industry a long time, and I met you years ago in the authorware community. Mm-hmm. And, we've gone through all sorts of iterations of authoring tools and things to do. Where do you see the industry right now?
It's an interesting time, but then it always has been. I started in authoring tools back in 1983, so it's been 30 years now. I was still in college, and at the time, authoring tools were really mini computer-based. But the interesting thing, and the only reason I mentioned this, is that back then, there was a lot of thought put into the tool as far as learning approaches and how people actually learn and so on. So it was quite a learning experience for me to realize, just how do you use a computer to teach people. So eventually, of course, I graduated college, and then I went to work for Ford Aerospace, and from there on to a few other companies every couple of years, 4.5 years in one case. And in each case, ended up using a different tool. Authorware was a tool I learned in May of 1990, for instance, and used pretty much until about 2005 when it was sort of put on the shelf. But the tools that I've seen coming out have been a real mix nowadays of both those that have a lot of thought put into them, as far as how people learn and how to best create learning, and those that seem to be put together primarily to make money.
Right.
That's not to say that any tool out there right now is not worthy. I mean, every tool has its place, and I do believe in using the best tool for the job whenever possible. So there's no reason that there's no tool that I've found lately that I think, I would never use this tool. I think every tool has a place.
Sure.
But some tools just have more power than others do, in terms of being able to address instructional design needs. My biggest issue, and I can talk all day, by the way, so stop me anytime you want. My biggest issue is the fact that all too often people will learn a tool and then try to fit whatever instructional design needs they have into what that tool can do. And sometimes that's fine because the tool is, has the kind of power they need. Other times not so good because it ends up it ends up being a bad learning experience for everybody. So where I see tools today primarily are in three categories. You have the PowerPoint add-in tools, and there are several of those. iSpring Pro is a good one. Of course, Adobe Presenter, Articulate Presenter, which is a little bit older now, but is being updated this year. There's Zenler Studio and Snap by Lectora. These are tools that are quick to learn. They're based in PowerPoint, so they are easier to pick up. They don't necessarily have all the wherewithal to create every kind of learning that you want, but certainly they allow you to get up to speed quickly, and they do have, in many cases, quite a few features that really can enhance your learning. They tend to vary quite a bit in price, from anywhere from $99 to $17.99. But when it comes to being able to create, for instance, full scenario-based types of learning, the best kind of learning as far as I'm concerned, then they kind of fall short. That's when you really start to need something a little more powerful. So then you have that interim group, well, not interim group, but a second group, I would say, in which you have tools that you install that are not in PowerPoint. So Captivate, Storyline, Lectora, and there's a few others as well, all of which tend to have more power, but also means, of course, that they take more time to learn. Because whenever you have more power, you have more features, you have to take more time to learn those. And then now you have all of the cloud-based tools as well, and there's quite a few of those also. That are strictly based in the cloud. You have, of course, Zebra Zaps out there. You have Smart Builder. You have, I'm suddenly drawing a blank, but there's so many of them now. And name them if you can think of them. You also have a tool out of New Zealand called Interact, which used to be called Role Play, a very powerful tool. That's all online. You have Easy Generator out of Holland, which is also a tool that is starting to generate quite a bit of buzz this past year. So you have PowerPoint add-ins, you have installed tools, you have cloud-based tools, and all of which have their own advantages and disadvantages, of course. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, I like the idea of the cloud-based tools. The only thing that I still feel is an issue with a lot of companies is getting them through the firewall and making sure who owns the content or where your content resides. I know a lot of large companies don't like having content off-site, or at least aren't comfortable with it. That's my only drawback. I like the idea of the cloud because you can get to it anywhere, anytime. You don't have to have it on your system. It's nice from that point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We have a question in the chat about Easy Generator. Can you talk just a little more about it?
Yeah, Easy Generator. And by the way, I do write a monthly review on different tools. And the eLearning Guild Learning Solutions magazine, learningsolutionsmag.com, has them all, including many other authors' articles too. So if you go there and just go to authors and then find my name in there, you'll see every tool review I've done. And Easy Generator is one that I reviewed a few months ago. It's a tool that is not that difficult to pick up. It's reminiscent of a file structure. So you basically have, chapters and pages, although I might not remember exactly the right terms there. But the idea being that you have folders, and within those you have pages. And then it's a WYSIWYG, so you can pretty much set up the screen the way you like. And the best part of Easy Generator, because every tool has its strength, is that it gives you a better ability to set up what's called adaptive learning, so that learners are able to have their needs addressed in terms of their expertise level. If they start making mistakes, they get more help and are seeing different questions perhaps and so on than those that are more expert. And so at that point, I got to stop because I really haven't used the tool tremendously yet. I do know the president of the company, Casper Spiro, great guy, very dedicated to learning. So I have full faith that that Easy Generator, from what I've seen and from knowing him, is not a tool that is simply out there to make a buck. They really are focused on helping people learn and creating a tool that gets you that point. In fact, their mission statement basically is to create the best e-learning tool eventually for learners. So I don't know if that helps a lot, but I hope it does.
Tom?
And there's actually another comment. No tool can do everything. Which combination of tools are doable?
Absolutely. Now that's a really excellent question, and one that I address constantly in my career, because the answer simply is it depends, and that's why I tend to keep busy. A lot of companies ask me that question, and there is no simple answer. The answer is based on what kinds of material you're trying to build, what is the content you're trying to build, who is your audience, what kind of technical abilities does the audience have, and so on. Only based on that can you determine what tools that you should really use. So, for example, if you're teaching heart surgery, you probably want to have a tool that can handle video very well. But if you're teaching accounting, why would you need video for that, possibly, right? So right there you can think of, which tools handle video well, which ones do not. But more important than media in many cases is interactivity. So can the tool handle the kinds of interactivity that are necessary? And again, if you're doing heart surgery or car mechanics or anything that requires a process whereby you're picking up a tool or a scalpel and moving it on the screen, that means you're having a drag and drop ability. Well, guess what? There are some tools that simply can't really do drag and drop. So once you determine the kind of content you're trying to build, the kinds of interactivity that you're going to need, the kinds of media you need to support, then you can start to look at what tools you can use. And it's a good question, because it's not assuming that one tool can do it all. You really do need to focus on which tool to use for different parts of the learning, and then having them talk to each other well. Now, to that end, you have both let's call them the Flash-based tools. The Flash-based tools have been around for a while now, and they're starting to fall out of favor because of the fact that Flash is not available per se on iOS devices, but they do tend to play well together. There is, of course, and also the second tier of Flash, which is ActionScript. So you have some tools that are still in the older ActionScript 2, other tools that have been written in ActionScript 3. They don't tend to play well together. So you kind of have to look, not just are they Flash-based, but which ActionScript version are they using. Still in all, in the end, it doesn't really matter as much in terms of that, because you can still get away with doing certain things like placing parts of your learning online and then in essence, embedding them as web objects or simple links in other tools. So I can create, for instance, a really nice piece in Captivate, but there's some really cool interaction that I need to build in something like Zebra's apps, which, wow, it can do almost anything you want. Takes a little more time to learn, but it can do almost anything you want. And I can have that online and simply show it within Captivate. So the two are not necessarily compatible, but you can still make things work and still have it look seamless to the end learner. So it just takes a little more thought there, but the best thing to do is to determine, again, which tool can be best used to address the learning needs of different portions of the e-learning. And then once you've determined which tools are best, find out how will they talk to each other. And so what I do is I go into organizations, ask a bunch of questions, and then I start to show them, in their case, what tools they should really consider. And sometimes they will follow my advice, and other times they won't. But that's their decision to make at that point.
Yep. And one of the things, you've been around a long time, you know that tools come and go. And to a certain point, it's probably safe becoming tool agnostic. I know a lot of people that get stuck on one tool and that's it. It's the best tool on earth. And they get extremely religious about it. And then the tool disappears or whatever, and they kind of move on. But in our business, if you don't stay tool agnostic, you don't probably stay in the business too long. Tools come and go. And boy, have we seen a lot of tools come and go. And some of the best ones have come and gone. And you just kind of shake your head and go, wow, it's an interesting industry. And technology is changing so much throughout the years. What do you think of mobile and the HTML quote-unquote 5 revolution?
It's definitely happening. It's definitely a revolution. I teach HTML5 now for ASTD online, and every couple of months I'm doing a session for them, a class actually, and the interest level is going sky high because every company seems to think that they need to be in HTML5. But there are certain things that are not clear at the beginning that can really trip people up. And so there are a few suggestions I always make in my classes regarding HTML5 and the death of Flash at the same time. The truth is, Flash isn't dead, and it's not going to be dead for quite some time. In fact, interestingly, Flash is still around even when you don't think it is. For instance, Articulate Storyline, which is a great tool that came out in May of last year, will output HTML5 or Flash, just as Captivate does. When you run, when you create your learning in Storyline for iPads, for instance, so that you can deliver to an iPad, they have an app on the iPad that will run your course, and it runs really well. And you're thinking initially that it's running HTML5, but it's not. It's actually running the Flash portion and interpreting it for the iPad on the fly in real time. And it works. It works really well. So Flash is still there even behind the scenes. There's a browser called Puffin, Puffin, that people can use on iPads, for instance, to access Flash sites. It's about 95% accurate has been my experience with that one. I've tested stuff I've done in Captivate, for instance, an output to Flash, and then when I look at it on the iPad, it's like, hey, this looks pretty good. So, you know, there's that. Flash is not going away today and not going away tomorrow, but the fact that Adobe announced a while ago that they're no longer developing the mobile version of Flash. They're still going to develop the desktop version, but not the mobile version, means that, of course, you know, that was the harbinger. That was the one that says, okay, now we understand that if we're going to go to mobile, we really do need HTML5. Maybe not today, but certainly soon. HTML5, of course, also runs on your desktop in most cases. However, every browser, both on mobile and on desktop, has different levels of support for HTML5. Eventually, they'll all be 100%, I guess, or very close to it. But right now, there's a couple of interesting websites that people can go to, one of them being HTML5test.com, that will give you a rundown of your browser and what it supports. And it's very detailed and very cool because it gives you a number, excuse me, out of 500, how well does your browser support HTML5? And if you look at it, you know, Chrome from Google is about 435 right now. You have Firefox, that's about a 370. Then you have IE 8 or 9, and that's about 130. Ooh. Yeah, pretty bad. But it's not just a number. It gives you a full rundown of every feature that's possible and what your tool will or what your browser will support. So when you look down that list, you may notice that a lot of the features that are not supported are things that never really happen in your e-learning anyway. Things like maybe a form, that sort of thing. So it's okay to maybe not worry so much about it, but still you want to be testing. So HTML5 is coming very fast, and very, very fast. And anybody who's ignoring it is gonna do so at their own what's the word? Their own
peril,
detriment, if you will. So it's good to learn it. One more thing I want to say about that, and that is just because a tool, whether it's Captivate, Storyline, Raptivity, or any other tool out there that says, hey, we output HTML5, does not mean that that tool will allow you the full capability of HTML5. It simply is saying whatever our tool normally can do, well, we can do it in HTML5 too. So that's good, but it's not, doesn't mean that, for instance, you'll be able to take full advantage of things like what mobile devices allow you to do. Mobile devices, for the first time in a long, long time, allow us to interact in ways that we never could on a desktop. People kind of forget that in the early days, we on desktop computers, laptop computers, we could do typing, and we could do clicking, and we could do dragging, and those are basically the three things we could do. Period. We could hit a key, we could move the mouse and drag something perhaps, and we could click on things. Then they added a new interaction type in the early 2000s that people don't even think about anymore, but it's the mouse wheel. The mouse wheel is actually a different interaction device, and it's used primarily for scrolling, but it is a new device that didn't exist before. All right, so that was kind of cool. But now with the mobile devices, you can tilt, these devices and instantly go between portrait and landscape. You can use accelerometers. You can pinch and zoom. I mean, there's all sorts of interactions now you can do with these devices that you couldn't do before, or certainly couldn't do it on a desktop. Just because that's true does not mean that when you use a tool like Captivate or Storyline, you're going to be able to do all those cool things on a mobile device. Right now, that still requires the building of apps or, a lot of technical wherewithal. And eventually, we're going to start to see more and more of those kinds of abilities as it becomes a de facto standard that HTML5 is being used primarily for delivery to mobile devices, but also to desktop, that you're going to have those kinds of abilities as well. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Tom, any other questions in the chat room?
Not real questions, so to speak. We're getting close to the end, but I did have a question about aspect ratios on mobile devices and screen sizes. How difficult is that, even when you're getting into HTML5?
That's a good question, and one that I don't know that I can fully answer yet. I've done some experimenting with it, and I'm starting to see some results, but it's still a work in progress. The fact that right now, if you are delivering to a mobile device and you're using a standard tool out there for creating e-learning, you're kind of limited. You're not going to be able to switch between landscape and portrait. You're basically going to go to landscape mode, and well, big deal. That means that I would have to look at my course, my lesson, this way instead of that way. Okay, so that takes a lot of effort to turn it. Okay, but it doesn't mean that it's automatically going to adjust itself when I go from one to the other. As far as aspect ratio is concerned, these actually do a pretty good job of replicating, in essence, a laptop or desktop from the standpoint of an aspect ratio. Now, height to width, it works pretty well. So when I deliver something on a desktop or a laptop and then try to look at it on a mobile device, it usually fits the screen really well, or it may have a narrow black bar on either side type of thing. Not a real issue there. Is that the question that was being asked?
Well, I was just, when I was talking with Nick Floro at Learning Solutions, he was talking specifically about the Apple platforms tend to have the same aspect ratio. And
Yes.
a lot of the Android devices, they change, and some are much taller and narrower, and it just seemed like that would be a challenge.
Well, you have one issue that happens with aspect ratios. You've got a 16:9 aspect ratio. You've got a 16:10 aspect ratio. A small difference, but you will see some differences on devices. Not a horrific one. I think more important than aspect ratio is the design for mobile is different from the design you would have if you're doing it strictly desktop, because you've got a smaller area. If you use very small fonts on your iPhone, for example, you're not going to be able to read it. If
Right.
you've got a full screen, it's going to be tough. And a lot of people don't adapt for that. So they'll create your regular course and then just say, okay, now this will run on an iPhone or an iPad. Yeah, it'll run, but it'll run badly.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, not only that, but there are certain things you just cannot do on a mobile device. There's no such thing as a rollover on a mobile device, and we use rollover so much in e-learning to allow learners to explore, the environment and to explore, have rollover text captions or rollover images or rollover whatever. And how do you roll over on a device like this? Your finger cannot roll over because it has to actually make contact with this now. Now, I just heard about this new ability for devices that will be coming out later this year that in essence allow kind of a rollover thing to happen, but certainly that's not going to be universal for quite some time. So when you're designing and you have to go to mobile, guess what? Yeah, you do have to sacrifice a few things. Now, Captivate, for instance, has a nice feature whereby it will give you, you click a button and it says, here are the things that won't work in HTML5. But what that really means is that won't work on mobile devices, because you can run HTML5 on a desktop and it would work fine. Rollovers would, because you have a mouse. But on a mobile device, what it really means saying is, it can't do it on a mobile device. And those kinds of things tend to be the rollovers and a couple of other minor things, but really it's the rollovers are the big one.
Right. And the converse would be the taking advantage of the gesture-based interface on the mobile
Absolutely,
devices.
but again, that's something that is really not built into any of these tools anyway, so you don't really miss that. I mean, it's not like, that's not there. You simply can't do those kinds of things, right? But if you have, if you've been depending on rollovers and they've been working just fine, and now you try to deliver that to a mobile device, wow, now those aren't working at all. What you're talking about, the gesture-based devices, pinching and zooming, all that, were things you really couldn't do anyway, so you're not really, missing those when you try to make the move. You could want them, you could, say, boy, I wish I could do that, but it's not something that you've been doing all along, and now suddenly you can't do. Make sense?
Right.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to mention about that too, just last night I was working on a project, and the client had said, we don't care about mobile, but all of a sudden said, oh yeah, we decided now we do want to go mobile. Well, again, what Rick said, I believe it was Rick, not Tom, but I believe it was Rick, said, if your fonts are too small or you have a lot of rollovers and so on, it's not going to work. Well, that's exactly how the whole thing was designed. That's how they wanted it to be designed in the first place. You can't suddenly change your mind midstream and have it work. You really do have to think about that in advance and decide what you want to do, because that changes your design approach.
Yeah, and it's still new enough that a lot of people aren't thinking about that yet. Where
They don't know what questions to ask.
They don't. And the devices, like you said, are changing in power and ability, and they're not all created equal. They're different. Some of them are close, but there are differences between, let's say, Android and iOS and the way they handle certain things. And then you've got the tools which are slowly coming into, like, for example, you brought up earlier that Articulate did a really good job with the app on Storyline. They did. Most people don't realize they're running Flash through it. They're convinced it's HTML5. And it's interesting. They did a good job of translating that. And it runs beautifully. Very few things I think it can't do. Like you said, rollovers, things like that. But it's a nice environment for doing that. And then you've got more of the static HTML5 type applications, which are really just more website kind of e-learning, which again has a place, and that works to a certain point as well. It's sort of interesting. Some of the tools that don't run as well in some respects on a desktop can actually look better on a mobile device, because you really don't realize that they have that limitation. Kind of
It's a good point.
a little thing. So I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you what your favorite tool is, but
My favorite tool are needle nose pliers. They can do just about anything you
they
want
do.
them to.
They're great. They're great. Pliers are good, and knives, cutters, whatever. Those that you just.
I actually, I'm pretty much tool agnostic. I do love learning new tools, and so that I'm always excited about, using a tool that I've never used before. And as I said earlier, I fully am convinced this is not just a line, that every tool has a place and every tool has strengths and weaknesses. There's no perfect tool. There cannot be a perfect tool, because everybody seems to want both power and ease of use, and those two things they can't get married really easily. You have tools like Captivate and Storyline that do a pretty good job of giving you quite a bit of power without making it impossible to learn. But then, if you tried to do all your e-learning in Flash and you had to learn Flash from scratch, boy, that would take a long time.
It would take a lot of time.
The same thing with, say, coding HTML5 directly and using it to make e-learning. That would take a lot of time and effort to learn. Whereas if you are using the PowerPoint add-ins tool, much faster to learn, but not necessarily give you all the power. You take a tool like ZebraZaps, tons of power, fantastic tool for doing just about anything you want. Takes a few extra days to learn it. Okay, not forever, just a few extra days, but that can be the difference for some people between learning that tool and learning, using a PowerPoint to add in. Not realizing, of course, that there are times when you really do need that power. So, I like all tools for different reasons.
Yep, and that music means it is end of our show.
Okay.
Hey, Joe, we really appreciate you coming on today, and hopefully have you on again. You got a lot to share.
Absolutely, I'm always happy to help out.
And are you going to be talking anywhere soon? Any shows you're attending?
I've just done a whole bunch of shows, and now I'm working on a contract that keeps me home for a while, but also means that I can rest and not have to travel. The next conferences I'm doing are in June, and I'm doing the eLearn and eLearning DEF CON conference out in San Jose. That's the eLearning Guild. And then right after that, I'm going up to Victoria, British Columbia to do another site conference up there, where I'll also be presenting. So I'll be out for a couple of weeks at the end of June. And if you want to reach me, I'm happy to assist in any way possible with e-learning. Just let me know.
That sounds great. And
Great.
oh man, I feel jealous. Victoria's gorgeous.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go there too.
Oh, you haven't been there?
Nope.
Oh, you'll love it.
In Vancouver, but not Victoria.
Well, either one. They're close to each other. A ferry ride away. Anyway. Well, Joe, appreciate it again. You have a great one, Tom. Thanks for kicking in there.
Okay, we're getting a lot of new activity. I'll have to wrap it up.
All right. Well, have a good one, everyone, and we will
Thanks.
see you next week on eLearnChat.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Rick.